is going on, fam? How is everybody doing? Please get your libations or whatever you need to get through the show. We're going to get in it and get out of it and get with it. People have to go to bed. Things have to happen as they have to happen. So listen, please do not forget, today is the 23rd. Guess what happens tomorrow? Book club time. So do not forget to tune in tomorrow, same time. I'm going to try to make it around 9:40 or 9:30 as opposed to like the usual. Anyway, but please, 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 tomorrow, show up for that. We're going to have the conversation. You can be here if you didn't read the book, but if you didn't read the book, just please don't call in. If you didn't read the book and you want to just have the, listen in, that's fine. But don't call in. Like, Yvette, I didn't read the book, but can you tell me, do you have an opinion on what's going on with black fisheries in southern Arkansas? No, I'm not. No. It's not a freebie. We're having conversations about the book. And I want people to be able to call in. A lot of people read the book. People want to talk about the book. And that's what I want to see happen. So let's have conversations about the book. Can we do that? Is that possible? So we do a pretty good job of it normally. But I just want to say that. Also, remember, you can please, fam, please hit the like button. Cost you nothing to hit that like button. Please share this with your people. Go to subscribe to tobrown.com. I don't use that very often. I keep it. No spam, no nothing. You can subscribe to the newsletter. That's $2 a month. That's in the description. As always, you can go to donatebrown.com if you want to donate, or patreon.com/Carnell. All that stuff is available to you. But please hit that bell. I know some people say they didn't get notifications, but please hit that bell to get notifications if you have not, and check and make sure your notifications ain't somehow turned off magically. Cost you nothing to do that. I appreciate it. And, we have to get to the meat of the thing. So we're going to get to the meat of the thing now that we've done business and everybody knows to show up tomorrow. We got to talk about empty drums. Empty drums make a lot of noise, and it's a lot of empty drums. And it's a lot of people who get politics wrong. And so what I'm trying to do, and I'm not trying to, people, oh, Yvette, you're picking on Roland Martin. I'm not. I'm talking about, because he's indicative of a kind of advocacy that is not what we need in an urgent moment. Right? So I'm not picking on any individual. I don't have, I don't have any kind of personal animosity. It's not what I do. But I saw this from Kamala Harris's camp, and I can't help but remember. I can't forget it. I can't help but remember. Kamala Harris, for the people. Kamala Harris announces Native American platform to restore 500,000 acres of tribal lands. Now, understand that is something that you're doing specifically for Native Americans, right? But you told us that we could not. I'm not going to do anything specifically for black people. No. You got real high pitch in your voice. I'm not going to do anything specifically like for black people. No. But I have policies that are going to elevate everybody. And I got the numbers right here. I got the proportionalities right here that you want to see them. It's still going to impact you. But I'm not going to target you. But you're targeting other groups. So you see this, Kamala's plan to honor tribal sovereignty and lift up Native American communities. Native Americans were here first. Our nation has failed to fulfill our obligations to tribal nations. Today, I released a plan that will honor the tribal sovereignty and invest in Native Americans. Okay? That's what Kamala said. Now, I want you to see what that means, because saying it and seeing what it means, those are two very different things. Here's a little bit of what it encompasses, right? 500,000 acres of land into a trust for Indian tribes, holding annual tribal summits, promoting health equality. So when you get to that land, that's always very curious to me. What does that mean? So I'm just going to go straight to that. Restore tribal lands. Push Congress to amend Indian Reorganization Act to clarify that tribes federally organized after 1934 can receive land into trust to take 500,000 acres of land into trust. No, I have no issues. But my issue is, why can you do that Why is it possible and okay that you can do that for Native Americans, but you tell us we don't get anything specific, we only get class-based politics? And so you ask yourself, you begin to ask yourself, how is this possible? How have we gotten here? How have we, the best way to put it is, how do we have this candidate who has cloaked herself in ADOS-ness through the AKAs and Howard University? She has cloaked herself in this. How do we have this candidate who has cloaked herself in ADOS-ness, and she's not, but she's cloaked herself in it for political reasons, right? But, and here's the kicker, but won't do anything specifically for ADOS, but will do something specifically for other groups. And you have to get to the why. See, listen, fam, you can't just be mad and upset. You got to get to the why of the whole thing. What created this kind of politics that allows her? See, if you have good politics, what happens is you can't do that. You know, when you come out, if I come out and I do that, oh, they gonna skewer me. They're going to skewer me. So what you do, you have to do something else. So you have to ask yourself, what kind of ADOS politics do we have that has sort of allowed this kind of infantile politics? I call it the politics of preemptive failure. Like, how did that happen? How do we have the politics of preemptive failure? How? How do we have this where you can do this and, well, I'm not going to give you nothing. Just like Obama, I'm not going to give it either, but I'm going to get your vote. And I'm going to announce Howard University, my alma mater, and I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to talk to you about sister girl stuff, and I'm going to ski-wee with you all day. How did this happen, though? So I put up a tweet early today, and I said, you all go and watch this Roland Martin clip. It's on somebody else's page. Go and watch the clip. Because I think what I believe is that Roland Martin's kind of politics is the politics of Black America, which overwhelmingly is ADOS America, but it is the politics of Black America. It is the politics of defeat. It is the politics of, I believe I can be an armchair person without clear transformative politics. I believe I can be an armchair person, an armchair kind of watcher of politics, and say, well, you ain't got the votes, you see. That's what you got to do. That's what has to happen with you. So if you watch the video, I want to go through it, and I'm going to bring up if you haven't watched the clip, it's on my Twitter. It's 2 minutes long. So if you want to watch that, you'll come back in or whatever at the time, and I'll be 2 minutes into probably in the second one, in the second little thing I have, in the second little clip. But here's the thing. Let me just bring it down a notch. I wanted to do it because somebody sent it to me. And I said to myself, Self, there's so much wrong in this. And that's why I had you all. I said, name everything that's wrong. Like, name the holes in this argument that he's making. Because let me just preface this for everybody who didn't watch the clip. Somebody asked Roland Martin about ADOS and said, what do you think about ADOS? And what do you think about reparations? And what do you think about what they're doing? And his answer to ADOS was a very kind of whitewashed answer. He was answering as a political person as opposed to an ADOS person. We know, as opposed to a Black person in America. He was answering like he was outside of Blackness. I'm just here to watch and tell you all how to do this. This is how I move. So the first thing he said was this. He said, well, they asked me if I believe in reparations. I said no. And here's why. Well, that's the first problem. If you don't believe in reparations because it's hard or it's difficult or because you woke up with a bad cough or whatever the case may be, if you don't believe, full stop. We finished. There's nothing else really to talk about because you have told me you don't believe in the thing that we're fighting for. And not only did you tell me, let's be clear, you didn't just tell everybody that you didn't just tell everybody today. You told us a long time ago in your tweets that you didn't care, and you haven't changed your position. It's not like you said, you know what, I was wrong back then. I made a mistake. We all make mistakes. I've made mistakes. Everybody else has. He has never come back from those mistakes. He doesn't believe that those were mistakes. What he says in this Twitter, Black reparations is a pipe dream. If you're hanging your hat on that, you can forget it. Spend all the time you want on slavery reparations. You'll accomplish nothing but knock yourselves out. I said, this is the most arrogant man I've ever encountered. I got black folks who say I'm not black enough or mad I don't support reparations. World's not all about the GOP. A reparations bill ain't ever going anywhere. Ever. The Negro said ever. Not in 2019, not in 2053, not in nothing. He said ever, and he still believes it. So if he didn't believe it anymore, it would be different. He still believes what he said. And then he says at the end of the video, well, see, I don't know why you ADOS people are targeting me or whatever. Like, you need allies. You're not an ally. In terms of reparations, you've never been an ally. And part of the reason you're not an ally is because you're too comfortable. You're too comfortable. It's the people that don't have the regular or have never been accustomed to or around the regular struggle of ADOS-ness. I remember watching a story from Roland. My parents bought me some Jordache jeans, and I told him I was a little baby child. I told him to take them Jordache jeans back, and that's his idea of like standing up to materialism. He doesn't understand like so much of the materialism that I don't stand with it either. But so much of it comes from like how we're viewed and how we're seen. He doesn't understand that, and he lives a kind of pampered life, and he spends a lot of time making all kind of rice dishes and stuff, and he doesn't have that life. So for him, if it doesn't happen, he's okay. But you have to advocate in this space for people who are not okay. Because any of us, me, Antonio, you, we could be, and some of you are, and I know everybody, we all have to do what we have to do. We could be driving Lyft or Uber tomorrow, any of us. And we know people who are, we know people who are working jobs, we know people who are out of work, we know people who are about to be evicted. The politics that we need is a transformative politics to make their lives stable and to make our lives stable, because none of us know what the future holds for our lives, right? So when he says he doesn't believe, that's a big deal for me, because that's everything. And you said it in your tweets. Then he says, white folks ain't gonna. And white folks ain't gonna. And he keeps, as somebody pointed out, he keeps kind of mistaking. Thank you, Kremlin. He keeps kind of mistaking. And I had pointed this, white people and the government. The government is the government. It's your government. The government is not the white man who lives down the street or whatever. The government is the government. It's your government. It's our government. It's my government. We pay taxes just like everybody else. So what do you mean white folks ain't gonna? What does that mean in terms of your own weakness, your own lack of internal fortitude? And let me just say this. As I bring this up, I want to just, because we have to, it is what it is. You got to tell the truth to everybody. You got to tell the truth, shame the devil, do all of that. So one of the things I want to bring up, when you always say white people ain't ever gonna. Now white people, and you make that the government. Uncle Sam is Uncle Sam. Uncle Sam is not white people in general. How are you mistaking those two? When you say you know so much about politics. And how do you not understand, or do you not care? Do you not care that nothing else closes the racial wealth gap except reparations? You just don't care because you got a nice stove and a nice house and a bunch of sweaters and, and a bunch of dashikis. Do you just not care, like, what that means for Black America if that doesn't happen? Do you not care that, like, we're going over a cliff? Do you not care that, like, we can't even survive an accident? Do you not care? But the second part about it is, like, in 1870, Henrietta Woods sued for reparations and won. Now, hold on a second. I want you to talk about when Roland Martin says that, like, it ain't gonna never, it ain't gonna never happen, and white folks ain't gonna never. Understand that white folks did in 1870. Understand that this woman who wasn't a slave and got re-enslaved, who was a slave, got her freedom and then got re-enslaved, understand that she risked life and limb to get her own reparations, and you have someone here who's chilling, comfortable, living life, telling you and me what ain't never gonna happen. Yes, if it doesn't happen, you know why? It's because people like Roland Martin aren't willing to risk it. You aren't willing to risk full-throated advocacy for your people who you claim. Right? You claim that you're an ally. I don't even know. Like, you claim, I'm 80. I'm 80. I just got some answers. Then you claim that you're an ally. I don't even know what you are anymore because you tell too many tales. I don't like people who tell me too many stories. If you tell me too many stories, something in there's a lie, and I know it. So it's whatever. But the truth of the matter is, you have to understand this woman's story, Henrietta Wood. Now let's just listen to this. On April 17th, 1878, 12 white jurors entered a federal courtroom in Cincinnati, Ohio, to deliver the verdict in a now forgotten lawsuit about American slavery. The plaintiff was Henrietta Wood, described by a reporter at the time as a spectacled Negro woman, apparently 60 years old. The defendant was Zebulon, what kind of name? Zebulon Ward, a white man who had enslaved Wood 25 years before. She was suing him for $25,000 in reparations. Two days early, the jury had watched as Wood took the stand. Her son, Arthur, who lived in Chicago, was in the courtroom. Born into bondage in Kentucky, Wood testified she had been granted her freedom in Cincinnati in 1848. But 5 years later, she was kidnapped by Ward, who sold her, and she ended up enslaved on a Texas plantation until after the Civil War. She finally returned to Cincinnati in 1869, a free woman. She had not forgotten Ward and sued him the following year. Now here's the kicker. The trial began only after 8 years of litigation. Understand, this ex-slave woman who had been sold back into bondage is more courageous than Roland Martin and the people like him. They can't stand on nothing for 8 years. The trial began only after 8 years of litigation, leaving Wood to wonder if she would ever get justice. Let me just come out of this for 1 second. That's kind of what justice is. You don't have any kind of assured way of knowing how everything is going to turn out. You don't have any kind of way of knowing, oh, this is going to be all right. This is going to be good. See, Roland Martin, what we're going to do is going to count the votes. If you ain't got the votes, we can't do it. That's not how justice works. You fight for what is right for the people you say you care about, Roland. Do you care about black people or not? Do you care about ADOS people? That's what we're talking about. We're talking about our justice claim. Do you care about ADOS America or not? If you care, this is what you advocate for. You don't say in 2013 or 14 or whatever, you don't say, well, I ain't never going to happen. Ha, 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 ha. Because you at CNN, you don't care about nobody else. Or you sit up and fight for policies that are on the margins, right? On the margins. So we see you here. White folk ain't going to never, but you got a dashiki on, Roland. See, you just confused. You just a very confused man. You making an argument about white people ain't going to never do with a dashiki on. That's what you're doing. You're not here with us in the same space. And as somebody said, he says you can't build a movement without allies, referring to himself after explaining how he's anti-reparations. If you're you can't be anti-reparations ally to a reparations movement. You're not an ally, Roland. You're an enemy. You can't say that I disagree with reparations and then say you're going to need people like me. I'm an ally. How? So we go back to Wood and her $20,000 in reparations, right? Her $20,000. We ain't going to talk about what that would be today. Wood, 25 years later, she was suing him for 25. Okay, now let's go back to what we were. Let's read this one more time. Let's understand it. The trial began only after years of litigation, leaving Wood to wonder if she would ever get justice. Justice is never a certainty. Now she watched nervously as the 12 jurors returned to their seats. Finally, they announced a verdict that few expected. We, the jury, in the above entitled cause, do find for the plaintiff and assess her damages in the premises at $2 $1,500, right? Now, somebody was telling me when I read it, that what she received was around 60,000 in today's numbers. But honestly, given who she was, an ex-slave, they could have just hung her outside for just challenging white America and white power. They just could have said, we're going to hang you from this tree. Come to this courtroom with your BS. She stuck with that thing for years. And part of what I'm saying here is that you are not promised an immediate outcome. You are not promised something is going to happen today. What you have is a job to do. And it's a job that some people don't want to do. It's easy to pretend like you're white and say, I'm just going to count the votes. You don't know how to count the votes? Okay. Well, that means you don't believe in what we talk about. You're not an ally. So when you tell me, well, white folk ain't ever gonna, you're not an ally, and that's a very weak thing. You kind of verbose in terms of how you talk about things. I'm Roland Martin, but no, when you tell me white folks ain't ever gonna, as if the government is just whiteness, you really kind of signal to me that you don't have the internal fortitude. You don't have the internal fortitude that Henrietta Wood had. You don't want to fight for a long time. You don't want to put everything on the line for this. Because I want you to go back, fam, I want you to go back a little while. Just go back a little while in your head. When you go back, one of the things that you'll figure out is that everybody during those, when you look about the leading up to slavery, right after slavery, when you saw Frederick Douglass and everybody, even you saw people. Now later on, we had debates. It's not saying Frederick and Booker and people were not on different, like one came after the other, but it's not saying that like there were not differences in these opinions. But like nobody could come out and say like, well, I don't agree that we should get anything, or I think some of them should still be slaves. You have to be on the same page regarding what kind of transformative politics are necessary. You have to be on that same page. And then you have Roland saying something else, which I thought very odd. He says, well, I can make the argument for reparations. I can make the argument, but it ain't going to happen, basically. Why would I? Why would I waste my time? I can make the argument, but why would I do it? You ain't going to waste my time. I got dashikis to buy and things to do. I don't know what y'all doing. So you won't. So that's who Roland, you see, that's what you have to understand. So Roland isn't going to stand. He isn't going to stand on reparations, right? He ain't going to stand on that. He decided he ain't going to do it. So the question becomes, well, what does Roland stand for? What is he standing for? Okay, well, we have something here. Roland Martin, why does immigration and DACA need to be handled? Okay, now you go here. And he basically says, he says something very interesting. Pay close attention. I'm going to try to bring it up a little closer. Both Roland Martin and Riley feel that the Democratic Party needs to take a stand when it comes to immigration. Democrats should say we ain't voting on for nothing unless there is a clean DACA bill, explained Martin. Hold on, wait, what you said? What you said? Hold on, Roland Martin, I cannot hear you. What did you say? Now you gonna tell me reparations ain't ever gonna happen, but you gonna stand on DACA. Is that right, Roland? If they let this administration and GOP continue to attack children, explained Riley, this will halt the blah, 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 blah. But Roland, I don't understand. Like, you telling me like we gotta stand now. Understand what DACA is. Let's while we're talking about it, let's just begin to understand what it is. Let me see if I can find a clip to kind of for people who didn't, Didn't know what Obama did and what Obama was doing and all that good stuff. I want to bring it up. So Obama goes it alone, shielding up to 5 million immigrants. It's more than that, probably, from deportation. Now here's just a quick and dirty. It's a lot more to it, but we ain't gonna get into it. In primetime speech to the country on Thursday, Obama said he would defer the deportation of parents of children who are either U.S. citizens or legal residents, and that he would also expand the protection to more dreamers or children who entered the country illegally with their parents. Those two groups also will be allowed to work in the United States legally after passing a background check and paying a fee. So what Roland Martin is telling you is that he is willing and able and ready to do more for people who are undocumented, meaning non-citizens, than he's willing to do for the people, the ADOS, American descendants of slavery, who have built this country and been here 400 years and have been oppressed during that whole time. He says Congress should call, the Democrats shouldn't do nothing if DACA ain't handled. If DACA ain't handled, y'all shouldn't do nothing. This is the same man who tells us, the same man then tells us that we're not going to get no reparations. It's a pipe dream. You would never say that about DACA. You are not an ally. And I don't even know why anybody shows up to watch Roland Martin unfiltered, on whatever the heck it is. I don't know why you show up to watch him, because you need an advocate. See, Roland Martin talks and he wears ascots and stuff. And so you believe in something that's not true. You believe that, like, this man is advocating for me. He's a black voice. Nobody does a daily show but me. Me. That's what he said. But you say you advocate for us and you do all that stuff. You do the same stuff I do. When I say family, when I say what's up, fam, I mean this is my family. These are my people. That's how we were at the conference. You say, what up, fam? What's going on, fam? How you doing, fam? But then you go all the way over here and you advocate for DACA. Non-citizens, doesn't matter what contribution they did or didn't make, they haven't been oppressed like us. Right? Not the same. You go over there and advocate, well, Democrats should stop everything. You advocate for them, but when we talk about reparations, well, you don't have the votes. You just don't have the votes. You didn't tell DACA, you didn't tell the people who were in favor of DACA, y'all just don't have the votes. Go sit down. You don't have the votes. It's all about the votes. Go sit down. You don't have the votes. You didn't tell them that. And understand, when you go back to Obama, you have to understand one thing. Obama vastly expanded executive power because he didn't go through Congress with DACA. It was an executive order. Right? So he expanded executive power, and he didn't do it. He did it because the people who were in favor of DACA, they started showing up at events that Obama was having and calling him the deporter-in-chief. You had people who were undocumented or were in favor of people who were undocumented and advocating them doing more than us. Advocating more than ADOS. So when you get to this other thing, let me just say, when you get to this, Roland Martin says, well, you need the votes. You didn't ask them for the votes, Roland. You didn't ask them for that. And it's, you know why too? Because it's unnecessary. You don't need the votes. The votes are what we need to do. We have to have the votes for reparations eventually. That's how everything has to end. But what Obama showed and everybody else shows is that you can do it. You can make your advocacy. You can move politics and move opinion without a House or a Senate vote. You don't have to have just 218 or 60. You can move opinion and move the needle without a vote. You say you Mr. Politico. How you don't know that? The people who did DACA, they used that whole thing, define themselves as dreamers, get the president to move in a certain direction, and now they have a bill passed in the House. That executive order led to a whole lot of trickle down stuff, right? And it doesn't matter that, well, you say, well, Yvette, Well, that, but that was one thing. This is another. The strategy is the same. Roland Martin is told people who were in favor of DACA, y'all should blow up the whole Democratic Party over DACA. Then when we said, what about reparations? Well, he said, you're never going to get it. How you watch that man? How you watch that man and think he for you? He's a careerist. You think he on your side? He said, blow up the Democratic Party. If they don't do DACA, you should shut it down. That's what he was saying. But with reparations, well, it's never going to happen because you don't have the votes. He didn't say that to them. Nothing. This should, DACA is something that should come through legislatively. It's kind of what I said before about the Supreme Court. Remember the other week I talked about it? And I talked about LGBT and it has to come through the Supreme Court. It should. Like you don't just get to shoehorn your way into everything. Well, if you, listen, pass the bills. You got to pass bills in this world. This is America. You got to pass bills. And they got to go through the House and the Senate. And they got to have a conference. And then they got to go to the president. You got to sign it. That's what got to happen. You don't get to just you live off an executive order. How you don't know that, Roland? Mister, you got to have, you got to know what you got to do. You got to. How you don't know that? Tell them to pass their own bill. If you ain't scared, you scared? You don't want to make, you don't want to make them mad, huh? But you can talk to us like dirt. Are you serious? You think it's going to happen? So let me just take you somewhere else. Let's just go somewhere else really quickly, because certain things just have to happen. Certain things just have to happen. I want to take you because we can learn from anybody. And I'm going to go there really quickly. Before I go there, I want to just shout out to some other people point out a good thing. Some interesting information in terms of Roland's like political ineptitude. He said that white people aren't going to give us reparations. 6 times victims have received reparations including 4 in the U.S. So what do you mean? What are you talking about? It does happen. Are you okay? Are you lost? You slow? You all right? Or have you just decided that like everybody else, you're going to throw us under the bus too? Because somebody else pointed out something else. I'll see if I can find it. It was all very interesting. Roland Martin's reaction to reparations in the interview that I'm sure he thought was just the best thing since sliced bread. It was all very interesting. But let me just show you one thing. Where is it? I just had it. Stay with me. 1 second. 1 second, people. 1 second. Family, hold tight. Hold your mule. Okay, I'm trying to look for it. Where did I go? Where did it go? Here we go. Now, this is, we talked about LGBT advocacy last time. Supreme Court declares same-sex marriage legal in all 50 states. Now, I want you to pay close attention to the date. That's 2015, right? Now, some of you may not remember, may not recall, or whatever. But in 2004, the narrative was very different. Voters passed all 11 bans on gay marriage. So in 2004, like if you were an LGBT advocate or activist or whatever, I'm sure that the thought process was, oh my God, just like it ain't never gonna happen. They done locked us out. They done 11 for 11. The conservatives want everything. Like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? They want everything. But you know what they did? They didn't follow Roland's like totally imbecilic advice. They didn't say, well, we don't have the votes. I guess we're going to go home. We don't got the votes. Start the car, Jethro. We don't got the votes. They didn't say that. They came back and they kept fighting. And I think we could learn something from that fight. Now, our fight isn't rights. It isn't Supreme Court, like just in general. We have a Supreme Court, the Reconstruction era law that's there with Byron Allen. But in general, it's not. Our fight is a fight of rights, as well as like there has to be compensation. So it's not the same thing. But even they said in this article, they said, but there's a lot of stuff that you can learn about how we fought. right? And what we did. It's not all the same, but there are some parallels. So, and the parallels don't look anything like what Roland said. So one of the things they said was this. The first lesson other campaigns could learn from the marriage movement, Solomon told me, is use state and local politics to put points on the board. Wait a minute, Roland told us it was all about votes in the House and the Senate. But the LGBT movement who won the marriage, they're telling us that, like, no, it ain't about that. That's not how we won. That's not how we did it. We did it by moving the needle and changing everything up. We didn't do it that way. So here we go. Solomon told me is use state and local politics to put points on the board. With Washington's gridlocked, virtually nothing gets done. The hopes of reform groups on immigration, climate, gun control, minimum wage have run aground, even when there appeared to be enough votes in Congress to pass the measure. But municipalities and states have become laboratories for reform, as they were with marriage. Right? So what he's saying is just like use the state. And some will say, well, Yvette, we can't really use the state the same way. Not the same way, but we can. And what you've been seeing that happen a lot. You've been seeing reparations come up in states. So there is a way. There is a way to have that debate and have people and people say, well, Yvette, what's the good of a resolution sometimes? Because what you want is this. You want people to get on the same page. You want them to get on the same page early. So you want somebody to get on the page of reparations when they're still in the state house, when they're still in the state senate. Hey, I want my ADOS people to show up for you. I run the local ADOS chapter, right? Me and my fam, we run the ADOS chapter. We're in it. We're going to show up for you, but we need you to go on record now as being pro reparations. Because what happens is everybody, all the people that you see in Congress right now, they all come from the state government. They were either a prosecutor, or they were either a local prosecutor, or they were either a state senator, state house, city council, all of that. And then they run for Congress. Get them on record now. And you got to show up for them. Listen, we're going to show up for you. As long as you keep towing this line, and we're going to tow it all the way to the Senate or all the way to the House of Representatives. We're going to groom these people early to be in favor of this because it's not enough. See, there's something else that Roland said. He said, how many votes do you have today? It's not enough. That doesn't matter. Like, let me just say something, fam. If there's one thing that you need to understand, and I'm going to say this, I'm going to try to say, I know I talk fast, but I'm going to say it kind of slow. Please understand, it's not how many votes you have today. It's how you advocate today. It's not how many votes you have today. It's how you advocate today. And don't be advocating all over the place in everybody's pots. Stay in your pot, stay in your square. And we have every reason to do it because we are going over a cliff. It's not even a cliff where we're out of wealth in 2053. We're out of wealth right now. If you don't believe it, I want you to take 5 $1 bills and go outside and throw them up in the air and walk away and see how you feel. Don't they make you feel some kind of way? Because they're important to you. Those $5 are very important to you. You know why? Because we need them. You need them. I need them. I wouldn't do that. I'd run back outside and chase them all up. Snatch them up off the ground. Wash them. Take them to the bank. Say something happened to them. I need my 5 1s back. Thank you. I will stand in this line if I get... What you wrong? You all right? They give me new money. I did something bad. I did something stupid with the old money. They're going to give me new money. You got a problem? We need our money. And there's a reason that everybody ain't that way. Everybody said, oh, I just lost my 5. I remember one time I was somewhere. I'm not gonna stay here, but I was somewhere. I was downtown one day, and there was a bunch of $1 bills in the air. Somebody's wallet or whatever. You would have thought I had won the lottery. I was just snatching $1 bills out the air. Why? Because we don't have, like, if $1 bills are enough for me to make a fool of myself, we don't have it. That's what it is. And that's what he's missing. He's been too comfortable for too long. too comfortable for too long. It's not about how many votes you have today. It's about how you advocate today. And then he says, well, our Republicans, we have to elect Democrats because our Republicans going to come through on reparations. So that's why you got to go vote. We're not saying don't go vote. At least I'm not. I've never said that. I said vote Democratic down ballot. Show up. Right? But here again is what Roland is missing. We have, since probably the civil rights movement, voted Democratic. President all the way through. Need a D behind your name. And that's it. And we in there. That has not saved us from anything. We are still on the bottom. We are still a bottom caste. Middle black family still has only 1,700. We still are. That has not helped us. So your idea that you just got to show up because Republicans ain't going to do it. So you just got to show up for all Democrats. No, you have to show up for an agenda. You don't show up for just a Democrat. You show up for someone with, or a Democrat with the agenda that you stand behind. So what's your view on reparations? How do you plan on closing the racial wealth gap? How that Democrat answers that question determines whether or not you stand with them. It is not determined by whether or not this person has a D behind their name. That is pedestrian politics that we should disabuse ourselves of. That is elementary school politics. Well, we just got to vote some Democrats in there. We get them in there. And once we get Democrats in there, we'll have some people on our team. No, we've seen that. Even when we talk about reparations, we see the people ain't on our team. What? And see, he would say like right here. What did he say? Hold on. Let me see this. You need the votes. You kind of like politics is math. You got to have the votes. Another thing, let me just say this. Politics is not the math. Politics is how you get to the math. You have to find a way to get to the math that you need. We talked about the local, but let's go to the other. You have to find a way to get to that math. The way the LGBT movement used to get to the math was through local governments changing minds on the local level. But you have to find a way to get to the math. You don't give up because you haven't gotten to the math. That's not how politics works. You figure out a way to get to the math that you need, which means you figure out a way to get to the electorate and move them. You figure out a way to get to the politicians and move them. You move them screws. You figure out a way to get to the math. You don't say, well, you know what? I ain't got the math right, so I guess I ain't going to do it. I guess I going to go home and sit down. Make something real tasty for myself. That's not how you do it. You have to get to the math. It's not the math. You don't just sit home and look at the math and say, you know what? I ain't got the math. So, I guess it ain't going to work for me. I'm going home. No, you figure out a way to get to the math. If a formerly enslaved woman could figure out a way and spend years to go to court and do it, how we can't do it? And there is listen, we don't know what not it happens this year, next year, 15 years, 20 years. You got to do it though. Got to do it. Got to be an agenda-driven people. That's what has to happen. And we've seen it happening locally everywhere. It's not just in one place where we told you Chicago. Look at this. It's happening. We're already doing it. This year, Democratic lawmakers in California, New York, and Vermont, states that either outlawed slavery before the Civil War or never allowed it, have introduced legislation that would apologize for their state's role in slavery, recognize the lasting negative impact of slavery on current generations of African Americans, and explore monetary reparations. So it's not all just about votes. There are other ways to push this and make this happen. Roland doesn't know what he's talking about, because he wants to talk about what's important to just generic Democrats. That's what's important to Democrats in general. DACA and all this stuff ain't what's important to us. Pick a lane, sir. And they all in the same lane. Him, Kamala, I don't ever know what her name is. They all in this lane. Right? So you can go all the way back up to, so he's supporting DACA. She is too. But and she's the giving Native Americans. Like, listen, that's redistribution. I got no issues with it. But I have an issue with the fact that we've been cut off from it. We can't do it. So y'all all gonna advocate in these spaces, but not for us, and cloak yourself in us and then say, Roland, I'm the only one doing black media. No, the only reason these reparations conversations that I just brought up, the only reason that any of this stuff is happening is because of ADOS. I don't care how many flights Roland Martin takes. I don't care how many cameras he brings. I don't care how many microphones he has. He has not made this conversation. You have not been effective. This is ADOS. This is ADOS running up on people with cameras. This is ADOS asking questions at town halls. This is Project Takeover, where we're back in our NAACP branches and what we can in the Urban League. We are taking stuff back. This is ADOS. You have talked a lot, but you don't have any fruit. I know a tree buys fruit, Roland, and your fruit is dried up. This is all us. I don't know what you're doing with your microphone, but it's not enough. And you haven't bared any fruit. So, being just a Democrat is not enough. So I just, and let me just go back to this real quick because I don't want to leave. I did this before, but I want to just, before we go, let me see if I can find this again and just bring this up one more time because it's just so awful. It's so bad. Some of the things that are said about us and some of the things, you're not an ally. We do have allies. We have very good allies. You're just not one of them. And you never wanted to be one of them. You wanted to that's why you with the charter schools. You wanted to distinguish yourself from the Negroes. Oh, the Negroes, they want something. They be after stuff. And let me just say this. I'm going to go to the phones in a second. But let me just say this. There is a difference. There is a difference between somebody telling you, regardless of what it's about, whether it's about reparations or something else in your life, there's a difference between somebody telling you, here's how to do it, and somebody telling you it can't be done. Somebody who's encouraging you and saying, you can do it, we can do it. Because Roland Martin, all he said, you, and he cut himself off from us. You and y'all, yeah, okay. See how long that works, Roland Martin Unfiltered. But there's a difference between somebody telling you, you can do it, and we can do it together, and let's figure this out and figure out how it works, than somebody telling us that it's never going to work. If you're telling me it's never going to work, and I need it to work in order to survive, you're an enemy. Like, I don't know any other kind of way to put it. A political enemy. You're not on the same page as me. You're not. And as I go to break, I just want to say one last thing. There are a lot of people who want to see this done quick, fast, and in a hurry. And Roland is kind of wants to be witness. That's not going to get done. It's never going to get done. We're just going to move on. I'm going to move on to DACA. I'm going to blow up the whole Congress over DACA, but it's just never going to get done. And I just want to say, we all know that ADOS, slaves, and then ADOS was slaved and re-enslaved and accrued disadvantage. But even from when we talk about 1619, 2019, even with that, one of the things that we kind of understand about that is how that's 400 years. But even when you 1619 to like the end of slavery, talking 1865, what you're looking at is like over 200 years of fighting. And you have to be willing to do that. You have to be willing to be in that space and be in that advocacy and do that regardless. Like, you have to see this fight like as your fight regardless. This is my fight. Especially those of y'all who have kids. You have kids that are going to live in this world. When you are on your deathbed, the one thing you got to know is, listen, I did everything I could. I fought the hardest I could for my kid, and I instilled the values of ADOS in my child. And I instilled them that we're a tribe and this is what we do. I did all of that. Like, you need to know that. You gonna feel that. And we have to do that. That they can advocate 200 years while enslaved and then come out of slavery and after doing what they did. How do you say now that no, it ain't never gonna happen? Like, how I don't understand how we became like, how all these, we're in a space where I feel like the weakest among us are leading, and that's a problem. So anyway, fam, so everybody can go to bed tonight, and we don't forget tomorrow though. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break as usual, per usual, and call in with concise comments about what we talked about. It would be preferable if you have any kind of libation that may cause problem, you just kind of take off of that for a little while. Don't deal with that one right now. But we will be back in a few minutes, and we're going to have a conversation. are back, and we're going to the calls. I really want to know what you all have to say. Everybody gets specificity except us. So I just want to hear what everybody has to say. I'm going now to 404. 404, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Peace, how you doing?
Pretty good. What's up with you?
Thank you. I appreciate the show. I thank you for everything that you've done for us.
Thank you, Sam.
Now, check it out. Strategy-wise, you got Bernie Sanders standing in front of the Native Americans, telling them that they're such a great people because they know their history and they've kept their culture intact. Then you got Kamala Harris saying that she's going to give reparations to the Native Americans. And I'm sorry, I'm calling from Atlanta, by the way.
Okay.
My name is Ray.
Okay, fam, what's up? Talking about her.
Yeah. So strategy-wise, there's a maxim in law: first in time, first in line. We should be exploring the fact that many of us were here before 1619, because they wouldn't be able to use that strategy of giving Native Americans reparations before they give it.
But most of us were not. See, the thing is, most of us weren't. Like, the overwhelming majority of black people were not here before then. And the thing is, like, that would actually hurt our justice claim, because we're not filing because we were here and we got slaughtered in the war. See, what happened between the Native Americans and the newcomers, if you want to call them that, was that they had a fight. Like, they poisoned Native Americans, smallpox, all of that, but they had a fight, they had a clash, right? And the Native Americans lost, and then they were basically genocided away, for lack of a better word. What we have is we were brought here, first of all, against our volition. We were not, for the most part, here, but then we built the country. So, like, it's not the fact of who was here and who wasn't. Like, America that exists today does not exist without the slaves who were our ancestors. And then after we built the country, they oppressed us intentionally and kept us away from wealth and allowed us to be this sort of bottom caste where anybody could come and take advantage of us and take wealth and extract wealth from our community for generations. That is our argument for reparations. There is no argument really if we were here. Like, even if, I know that's not, I know the truth, the overwhelming majority of us were not here. But even if we were, then that kind of negates it. You just kind of, we didn't have a trail of tears. We had years and years and years of building this country and then being bottom casted. That's a different lineage. That's a different conversation.
Well, I agree with you to a certain extent. I believe that all of that is our history, as far as everything we went through. Slavery, redlining, Jim Crow, all of that. But that's just some of our history, because it would actually strengthen our claim if we...
It's nearly all of it, though. It's nearly all of our history. It's nearly all of it. Like, it's nearly all of it. Like, it's not just a part of it. It's nearly all of our history. So it's like we're focusing on the aberrations or whatever. Like, no, nearly all of it is Middle Passage, slaves, Jim Crow, convict leasing, Reconstruction, KKK, mass incarceration. That's our history. And I think, to focus on like this small part of it. If you were here first, the government's going to tell you, okay, well then, chill out then. I don't know what to tell you. Do you have any history of being treated like Native Americans while you're here? Okay, chill out.
No, but they couldn't do that if we were enslaved as well. Because when you look at the state of Virginia, they harvested tobacco. But there is evidence that the ones that were harvesting the tobacco, the ones that were seen when Verrazano the explorer got here, were Negro black people with kinky hair.
But what does that matter? Like, my question is, what does that matter if nearly all of us came from slaves? Like, I think we get caught up in aberrations. Like, I can show you a turtle without a shell. Like, but that don't mean I want to talk about turtles without shells all the time, because most turtles have shells. It's like, so I don't want to, like, why do I want to get caught up in, like, they were maroons or whatever? I don't want to get caught up in that, because we built this country with slave labor. Our ancestors did. And there's a debt for that. I don't want to get caught up in who was here and how that happened. And I don't know why I would.
Well, I'm just saying it would strengthen our claim and not weaken it, because we have a land claim of us being the first ones here as well, along with slavery, not taking anything away from the fact that we are black, but we were enslaved, and this was our land on top of that, and they wouldn't be able to use I'm talking about strategy now. They wouldn't be able to use the strategy of, we don't want to pay them, we'll just pay the Native Americans first to avoid the fact
our thing is like the being here first. Like I mean, if you're going, and I'm gonna let you go, and I'm gonna finish this off air.
Okay.
But I appreciate you calling in. Because what happens is, like, look at the Native Americans haven't exactly fared well with that argument. Like, they have land or whatever, but they can't use it, and it's very paternalistic in terms of how it's distributed. They haven't fared well, but the Native Americans were decimated, but they didn't build a country. Like, I don't think you don't need, like, well, some of us was over here, and that, I just don't see how that strengthens any argument. I think we have to focus on streamlining what the argument is. Built the country, slave labor, brought here, boom, 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 boom. I don't think there's nothing else that we need. How do you need anything else when you built the rich country in the world? You don't need nothing else. There's nothing else that our argument needs. Our argument isn't lacking anything. The only reason it hasn't happened is because of white supremacy. And white supremacy would rather, not deal with us. Like, white supremacists would rather just not deal with us than give us our due. It's not because we have a bad argument. Like, we're not suffering from a bad argument. We're fine. The problem is that we have had not only, white supremacists, but we have had poor black leadership that hasn't brought this to the forefront. We got the best argument there is. There is no better argument. We're not suffering for lack of a good argument. That's not what's happening. That's all I'm saying. So I am going now to 919. 919, I'm coming to you. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, how you doing, Yvette?
Pretty good.
Out of North Carolina.
What's going on? What's on your mind?
I was just calling. I'm all right. Just listening to the call. Thank you once again for the show. Real quick, I don't understand why people keep bringing blocks and other pitfalls and traps into the argument. The anchor, like you said, we are on politics, 102? We should be on 103, 104. I mean, we're past that now, guys. We're past that. Let's move on past that. It can't be because who was here first and who was here last. And as you have always mentioned in the data show, redlining, that period after slavery ended was where the wealth was built, where the trapdoors, the pitfalls, and the moving goalposts, all those things happened. Why we have the racial wealth gap, why we have redlining, all these different things. So we shouldn't be here. But I got a quick question to you, that real quick. If we notice something with the Roland Martins, the Kamala Harris, a lot of our black politicians, one thing we see, they're Boule connected. And it's just a quick question I have, because I've called before and I said I have a girlfriend who's a Boule. And trying to break that barrier, it's hard. Do we now, can we locally, nationally start to address some of these Greek organizations, the BGLO, Black Greek letter organizations, and ask them, what are you guys doing? I mean, because at the end of the day, I think that's a representation of the mentality of the people that are coming up in these organizations. I'm not telling people to denounce their organizations, but you got to stand for something. And if you're not standing for something, then you're in the way, and you need to make your claim. We're pro-Democrat. We're not here to rock the boat.
Well, you know what? I think some of these organizations do very good work, right? Cut down your background for me. Some of the Greek organizations, I hate that they're Greek, whatever. But I think some of them do really good work in terms of reaching out to the community. But hold on. In terms of mentoring, in terms of a lot of stuff. I think the call isn't to call them out. I think the call is to say, let's do more. Let's do more consequential work. I think that's the call to action.
Okay. Because I'm just curious, because I'm not I'm not seeing any building. And like I said, I have a girlfriend. She's in the Greek. And I asked her the other day, what do you guys talk about? You guys talk about black politics when you go to the conclave, when you go to Centennial, when you go to, different things. And it's not talked about. I mean, it's just not talked about. It's not debated on. It's not argument. And it's all about the optics. And that black politics is past the optics now.
Oh, yeah.
Let's appreciate where we had people in places, but now what's the advocacy? And if you're in that group, advocate for what's right. If you look at other organizations, other ethnicities, you see they stay on the code or a page. There has to be a code now. We have to be codified.
But wait.
We can't no longer just be
But wait, fam. They have a code because somebody enforces that code, right? So we have to become the pressure that enforces that code. Now, you don't get to go to the Essence Festival or go to Calabasas or whatever the Alphas do or whatever the Qs do. You don't get to just do that and not do black politics. That is shunned. That is forbidden. So it has to become a group to where we look down on that and we say, you can't be here and do that no more. That has to become part of our culture.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and I advocate. I'm advocate on the ground level, and I'm not in the organization. I wasn't making one before, whatever. But when you do your history study, you realize all these groups were not built upon strengthening the black community. It was based upon strengthening white supremacy, and we have to call it out for what it is. And maybe if it was from an Anglo-Saxon, from an Anglo-Saxon perspective, not an African-centric one. And I'm not saying African as far as immigrants, anything like that. But it was based upon advocating for your own, not advocating for a Democratic Party, not advocating for the Republican Party, not advocating for everyone else. It's no longer about the paternal relationship. It's about now a relationship of, different groups of people being listened to and being heard. And so that's just one of my questions I have for tonight. Because I just like this connection is just driving me insane to just see different people, all these different organizations, and knowing a lot of them, I just do not see them advocating. Now, I have seen when I went to the Colin Kaepernick protest a couple of years ago, I did see the Catholics come out.
Okay.
I did see a few other groups come out, but we need more of them. Or just don't say nothing because you're in the way, and then it shows this veil of, they're doing good, or that's not their problem. You know what I mean? And if you're going to be that voice, or that representative in the room, then you got to be that voice. Or just don't say anything about it. And like Uncle Tony even said a couple of days ago, yesterday, about basketball players and sport athletes, if you're not going to advocate for the betterment of your group, then it's time for us to pull back our support on how we look at you. It can no longer be that we support you and you give nothing back to the people, the common, or the people who are just working class. It's time.
Yeah. And so they'll give back. See, the thing is, they'll give back in terms of their outreach and community. But I think we have to. ADOS has to set the standard for how you give back.
Right.
Okay. So I'll answer you further offline, caller. I appreciate you. I still hear your background. I appreciate you. But I think we have to set the standard because for so long, and I agree, it's kind of boule. But the thing is, for so long, and I'm not saying they don't try to do good things. They do. I've seen Greek organizations try to do good things. But for so long, the standard for our community for doing good things has been we're going to outreach here and we're going to mentor here. We're going to do this. And we haven't really made reparations advocacy or sharing that data like a pivotal point. And I think you have to make that case to them. Like the brother said, I saw the Alpha show up for Colin Kaepernick. I think it's possible that they can on some level, but we have to let them know we're a group. It's not you because you pledged you're better or whatever. We have to do this as a collective. Now we're not saying you don't have your specific contribution, right? That comes from whatever degree you have or whatever. You do. And I want you in this fight. But I think we have to show people how to show up, right? I wouldn't just down a Delta, aka Alpha, Q, what else you got? What's the divine nine? What's all the nines? I wouldn't down none of them. I'm saying that we have to show them how to show up. Now if we have some of them who say, I don't want to show up that way. then that's a different kind of story. But we have to show them how they have to show up specifically, because we understand we ain't really been doing advocacy on a very specific level for a long time. So it's a lot of people who just think this is how I show up. I'm gonna go do some Big Brother stuff. I'm gonna go do this, and they really don't know like how I got to show up. So we have to train people like you show up for this and you show up in this way. You don't just show up for Kamala because she's your soror. That's not how we do That's not how we do ADOS politics. That's not how this works, right? And if you're an ally, that's not how we do ally politics. That's not how this works. So you have to show people like, no, it's just not showing up for her and taking a picture of her and putting your pic. You got to do something different. And we have to do that. And we have to use our own ADOS people who are part of Divide 9 as the push towards that. So you all who are alphas and kappas and all of that, you have to lead this Qs. You have to lead this charge. It can't be those of us who didn't pledge or those who didn't go to college. Y'all have to lead this charge in your own orgs. That's part of what we talk about in terms of Project Takeover. Project Takeover is taking over our own institutions. Those are part of that. So the people that we have who are ADOS and who are advocating for reparations and making us whole in the black agenda, you all have to show up at your own, AKA Delta, Sigma. You got to show up at your own Q, Alpha, Kappa. You got to show up at your own meeting and advocate how you're supposed to advocate. That's all a part of it. So I'm going to the next caller. I am going to 313. 313, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette, this is Rashawn Nelson calling from Detroit again.
What's going on?
The veteran. Hey, nothing much. Let me step outside. I'm at work. But I found the show very, very helpful. And as far as Roland Martin goes, now, I've tried to get in contact with Roland Martin and have a conversation with him on a couple of times, and I haven't heard back from him yet. Like, I've always, I drop him messages in his feed and whatnot when he goes live. But, I mean, I'm pretty much on the same page, and I think I can speak for a lot of the other ADOS. If we're on the same page as you, I mean, pretty much dude is in the way. You know what I'm saying? He needs to just go ahead, pack his little show up, and go and advertise to the Boule crowd instead of claiming to speak to and for the large portion of it. You know, because he's not. I haven't heard too much of anything on the show that actually pertains, actually beneficial to any of us. Beyond, like seriously. Beyond that, I tried calling you Monday for your show, and I forget, man, I just had it on the tip of my tongue. I just lost my whole train of thought on that. Now, what's an idea as far as, like, I have a few ADOS that I'm in communications with around the city of Detroit, and what can we do to, like, get our group, like, up and going, like, flourishing?
Well, I think you need to, you know, I tried to get the forum up this weekend, but I'll get it up this week. It's been busy, but I'll get it up. I'm gonna have a forum on breakingbrown.com where everybody can kind of have a conversation, and I can kind of kick people out when I need to or whatever. And you know, so I hope that'll be a part of it. But I'm sure there's something already going on in you said you're in Detroit. I'm sure that's
yes, ma'am.
I'm sure there's something already going on there. Like, look at the chat, like, and see if you're in Detroit. Like, it says somebody said Detroit is having meetings. So look in the chat right now and see if you can get some.
Yeah, we're supposed to be having. I think our first one
is it the first one,
supposed to be like November the 26th.
Is it the first one?
No, November 24th, I believe. But I'm talking about as far as like getting the mass attention around the city.
What you see, the thing is, it's work. It's all work. You're not gonna get the mass attention early. Like don't count on that. Like, if it happens, and that's great, and it happens just because you're doing the work, right? When something happens great, it just happens because you've been doing the work a long time. It's not no boom. It's just like you've been doing the work, and then the stuff just like, oh, then we went that time and it popped off. Just get used to doing the work.
Okay. Right. Oh, and also, I did end up speaking with the CBC member, Brenda Lewis.
Okay.
And pretty much, she was lost. She was lost in the sauce.
What you mean?
Like, she couldn't give me an answer to save her life on any of the topics that I brought up to her.
Oh, she didn't know. Did you give her information?
Yeah, but that was like,
Did you leave her with some information?
she wouldn't look at any. I didn't have the chance to get anything printed out for her, but I did have the all of the charts and everything on my phone, and I tried to sit down with her and show it to her, but like she kept switching her focus on to the white people in the crowd.
Yeah. Okay, fam. I appreciate you calling in. If y'all get the chance, you know, make sure you. I know we live in a digital age, and I'm not faulting you, but try to bring a hard copy sometimes. It might help. Like Antonio and Sandy and Dr. Sandy Darity's, you know, the myths of closing the racial wealth gap, stuff like that. It might be a good idea sometimes to keep that on us. So.
Yeah.
All right, fam. I appreciate you.
I didn't want.
You guys, I'm getting the last word.
No, I didn't want to say too much or nothing, but thank you. You're doing a great job.
No problem. Thank you.
Peace and blessings to you and Tone.
All right. Appreciate it, fam.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, you have to keep doing what you're doing and see what's coming. And I appreciate that brother. I appreciate him. He calling from work, and that ain't the first time he done called from work and stepped out from work. That's a lot. That's diligence. He be on it. He be at work and he still make sure he catches and he still make sure he do politics to the best of his abilities. I appreciate him. I'll take him over Roland any day. Or most other people who really don't care about what happens to most black people. I go ADOS people. If I take him every day. I appreciate that brother. It takes a lot. And he done called a couple times from work. I mean, one time his work was so bad, he was so loud. I was like, what's going on? He's like, I'm at work. I was like, oh Lord. But he be on it. It's a lot going on. We all be having to do a lot going on, but you got to multitask. And I appreciate him for multitasking. I appreciate that. I am going now to 951. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Yes, this is David down in San Bernardino, California.
What's going on, David?
All is all good. I was thinking, why is it that Roland Martin is even given a voice in this discussion about reparation? Isn't he Haitian?
Well, I don't think. Well, see, I don't know where he's from. I know that's part of it. I know that's part of his lineage. Like, my thing is with Roland is, even if you're from Haiti or wherever, why can't you be a decent ally? Like, why do you have to step out in front in opposition to something? Like, that's my thing with him. Like, why do you, like, he says, well, you all need allies. No, you're an awful ally. We have good allies, and you're not one of them.
Exactly. You need to get with the program. That's the way I see it. The other question I had, you were talking about advocacy.
Mm-hmm.
And you were talking about advocacy locally.
Uh-huh.
Now, like I said, I'm in Southern California, and I've done my genealogy, and I've traced my ancestors who were slaves. Most of them were in Arkansas.
Mm.
Now, what if something comes up in Arkansas about reparations? Does somebody like me have a voice in that?
Why wouldn't you?
So, what do I do? Do I write letters? Do I find out when they have meetings and,
Well, are you there? You're not in Arkansas though, are you?
Excuse me?
You're not in Arkansas anymore though, are you? You're in California.
No, I'm in California, Southern California.
Huh. You still got family there?
Not that I know of. I don't think so.
Yeah, that'd be hard. I think what you would do if we, in terms of the chapters, the ADOS chapters are all just kind of popping up. So if there's a chapter wherever you're from, I think what you would do is you would provide some kind of support to those people in terms of whether it's knowledge that you have, whether it's people that you have. You don't have any people who are still there, but if that was the case for you, whether it's some kind of background information that you have. If you're not there, I think the only thing that you can do is to support the people who are there. That's the only thing you can really do. If you not only you're not there, you don't got no people there no more.
Yes. But I think if Arkansas, let's say, were to come up with some reparations, wouldn't I be part of that? Seeing whereas my ancestors that were slaves were actually in Arkansas.
Well, it depends on how they write it up. See, that's when they do these local resolutions, they're not the same way that we kind of framed it for the national. So, like in terms of the federal, so I don't know like how Arkansas, if they did it, how they would frame it, and what their guidelines would be. That would be another thing. Like, how do you know? I saw Chicago was doing something for kind of like African Americans or whatever. I don't know how they frame it. So one of the things that you might do is try to make it framed in terms of like make it be ADOS, or people who lived on those, or were descendants of people who lived on those plantations down there in that black belt. That would be something that you could do, but it will all depend on how they frame their specific package if they did something like that. And everybody, in terms of these local people, they're gonna all do it different.
Okay. That sounds good. So it seems like we'd have to get in touch with somebody locally, and I guess put it on their mind that, yeah, there are people living elsewhere that can trace their ancestry back to here.
Yeah, there always are. Yeah, because one of the problems with the redlining legislation, right? When you saw Elizabeth Warren and all the people come out with redlining legislation, is that they were dealing with the people who in the communities that had been redlined, but they weren't dealing with the people who were driven away from those communities, right? So you're not driven with the people who actually dealt with the impact of being redlined. You're dealing with people who moved into, for the most part, not always, but a lot of people who moved in there after the redlining. So you have to find a way to kind of focus on the people who were harmed, because even when you talk about law, harm is like a big part of it. So that's what we're talking about. So I think that would be it. But like, you know, until it comes up, until they do something concrete, you won't really know what the criteria is.
Okay.
All right,
All
caller.
right, then.
No, I appreciate you calling in. Thank you for calling in, caller. I'm gonna try to go to as many calls as I can. I'll be having a lot as of late. So I'm going to 2028, because I have a couple of 202s. 2028. I'm coming to you. 2028. What's your name? What's wrong with this? What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, this is Zach from DC.
Hey, what's going on?
I'm loving the show. You posted my tweet a little bit earlier, so I'm calling in because I have some things to say.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I actually really appreciate when you do that, like, post something from Roland and tell us to decode it, because I before listening to you, I really didn't pay attention to him. And it's not that you should. It's a good practice in terms of media literacy. And what I did was, another thing that I was going to say about him is that he loves to pontificate about what's possible and what's not possible for black folks. But I thought he missed an opportunity when he said you don't have to vote, as if votes only happen one time. He could have pontificated about tipping points and momentum, which he does for other topics. If you hear him talk about country, and he's tracking it from minute to minute, and he can articulate a full argument about why things are different now than they were in 2008. And he can't do that for us. And that, I feel like allyship zero. But I also appreciate that I just emailed you an article about something that this conversation is bringing up. I was really thinking about how people like Roland, other opportunists, really rely on the perception that black politics is an empty shell and it's useful for everybody but black people. And so there was an article that came out a few days ago from the Baltimore Sun, saying that the Maryland Legislative Black Caucus ends a plan to make members choose between black and Latino groups. And I thought it was an interesting read, because basically some member of the Maryland's Black Caucus, Legislative Black Caucus, so the Maryland State Black Caucus, was trying to propose that if you are a delegate, that you can be a part of the Black Caucus as long as you are not a part of other caucuses. and there was backlash, and he withdrew the proposal. And I was thinking, of course, intersectional Twitter was in support of this, and I was trying to explain how folks are not seeing that basically the pressure was put on by folks who are trying to equate a black group politics with identity politics. So, a delegate who was Afro-Latino was saying, you mean I can't be in the Latino caucus and the black caucus at the same time? And I'm like, well, if they ever have competing agendas, then no, you're a liability. If blackness, I think for those lawmakers, it feels like blackness is something they can use when they need to, and so they join the caucus to make it about DACA, or they join the caucus to make it about some issue that's really more advantageous to their other identities or their other communities. But
well, you know what I think it is, Carla? I think it actually is like anything. Everybody pushes back whenever we draw boundaries. So somebody will say, "Well, I am 54 different things. I'm black and I'm Toucan Sam," and it's just like, what the hell? Like, it's okay. These are aberrations. We're trying to build like we have a tribe here. But if you went somewhere, we talk about the slave trade. If somebody said, "I'm Igbo and I want an Igbo," we'd be like, "Hey, do your thing." But the minute we say we want to do something, everybody has a problem with us drawing boundaries. And I think we have to deal with that. We get to draw whatever boundaries we want to draw. Now, if you have a problem with that, that's a problem. But like, I haven't read the article, but in full. But I'm just like, whenever we try to draw boundaries, it's exclusionary. Oh my God, I can't believe you are keeping us out. No, we're just defining ourselves and defining our interests, and we have a political interest, and we are trying to keep this group kind of closed because we don't want to kind of put out what are we doing. So if you go and take it somewhere else because you Afro-Latina Toucan Sam or whatever else is going on in how you want to describe yourself, because now everybody can describe themselves however they like, then that can be a problem for us. And so it's like, oh, it's just divisive and exclusionary because black people are trying to find this ADOS. They're trying to define themselves as ADOS. Oh, how dare they do that? Like, we can do whatever we want. We can define ourselves. Everybody else defines themselves as tribes and groups. And, my people is Irish and my people is this and my people. Why is there always such a problem? Like I say this without having read it, but why is it always such a problem with us defining boundaries?
Yeah, I mean, you can see it just from the number. I actually had to look up what population in Maryland was Afro-Latino. And so I pulled up it was another study from the Office of Minority Health Disparities that says that all black people are 29.4% of the Maryland population, but that among them, 10% of those were not born in the U.S. So that's potentially 2.9% of Maryland's total population that this even has anything to do with. And so the push is actually coming from groups that are so small that they need ADOS to capitulate their issues to serve them. Like, they don't have the numbers necessarily, so they have to make this intersectional argument that's like, no, this is all black people's issues. I need to be involved in this, as opposed to, no, this is a caucus that's about reparations. That's about the legacy of slavery in Maryland.
And you know what'll happen? I don't mean to interrupt you, Carla, but I just did. But you know what'll happen? They'll have one of them in the black caucus, right? And they'll have them on TV as saying like, well, we're speaking to so-and-so. We're speaking to so-and-so from the black caucus. And it'll be one of the other ones we talk about, the part Toucan Sam and whatever. And they'll say, well, I'm opposed to reparations. And they'll be like, oh, we have there's division even within the black caucus. And you don't understand that this person isn't the same as the other people in terms of lineage.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, I mean, they could just invite Roland over to have that debate set up. Real easy.
Yep. Oh, well, if there's no agreement within the caucus, then there's no agreement at all. I guess we're gonna have to table it. No, they were always anchored in something else, and like they came here because they're trying to put their pinky toe everywhere. You got too many pinky toes running around. You can't put your pinky toe in every swimming pool.
Yeah, but they specifically, you know this, they're trying to put their pinky toe in our swimming pool. They're not trying to bust up the Asian American Pacific Islander caucus or the Latino caucus. They really are. I think people understand the value there, so, and they know that there's political power just by the numbers. If I'm just looking at Maryland, a third of the population is ADOS, then I'm going to go for that. That's what it is. That's where we're going to sow those kinds of, divisions or whatever. But I really appreciate the show. This was a great reminder. Folks in DMV are planning to come to go to the Byron Allen case.
Oh, great.
And working in politics in their various D.C., Maryland, Virginia places. So I really appreciate this new chapter of politics.
Yeah, you got to have your political family, fam. You got to have your political family. And your political family needs to end up being your family. But I want to thank you for calling in, fam. And keep me updated. Y'all keep me updated with what's going on with the DMV, with all the stuff. I heard somebody else call in and say that. So keep me updated. Just email me. I read most of the stuff. So keep me updated. All right, fam. I appreciate you. Thank you for calling in. That was an interesting comment. That was very, very interesting. I'm going to 617. What's wrong with this thing? 617. What's going on?
Hey, Yvette, it's Reggie. What's happening?
What's going on, Reggie? What's up with you?
Hey, at some point I'm going to go back and listen to this previous call again. I really appreciate the sister's analysis, like this intersectional bait and switch and this grifting. She really, really broke that down very, very well. I really, really enjoyed that exchange. So, shout out to her. I had some thoughts on Kamala Harris's Native American plan.
Okay.
I thought it was very, very interesting. And when I looked at the number, what it reminded me of was your exchange with John Yarmouth when you're talking about following the money and comparing money to other money. So when I looked at that number, I felt like, based on what you said, that maybe I should compare land to other land and populations to other populations. So when I looked at the 500,000 acres she's talking about, in terms of square mileage, what you're talking about is a little bit over twice the size of New York City, which is like about 8.5 million people. And then I turned around and looked at how many Native Americans are and their descendants are here in the United States. I came up with, like 6.8 million. So pretty much what you're talking about is, across the United States for all the tribes, for about 6.8 million people, you're giving them the amount of land that's a little over twice the size of New York City. So what that tells me is that somebody in that campaign or within that team, and Kamala Harris herself, was very specific and intentional and said, what do these people need? And I'm coming in with a serious, specific, and intentional proposal. And it really reveals just the disdain and the disrespect that they have for us as ADOS. It's like when I look at what she's doing for the Native Americans, I'm totally fine with that. Along with ADOS, I feel like they owe us and the Native Americans. You just owe us the whole country, period. But in terms of their population, you see a specific and intentional policy, and when you put that in, when you compare that just to the disrespect and these paltry numbers they throw out, I'm so glad that you said down ballot, because nobody's serious. Just cut them all off.
Yeah, they don't want to talk to us.
And in terms of and in terms of Roland Martin, I'm just glad that there were not a whole lot of his types on us with the plantation because we'd still be in slavery. White folks ain't never gonna do nothing. Just imagine if through slavery, white folks ain't never gonna do nothing. Civil rights, white folks ain't never gonna do nothing. Just go down the list. He just needs to have seats. I thank God every day for ADOS.
Oh, thank you, Reg. Thank you, Reg. I appreciate that. Yeah, you gotta see how Reg broke down those numbers, took the number, the land, and compared it to the people. You can't take the land and be like, well, that's a small piece of land. But how big is the group? That's how you have to do it. That's how you have to do it. You have to break it down. That's how you have to break it down and see what does this mean. And then do you all remember the land study that I'll leave it up to you to Google it. How much land African Americans have? There was African Americans. It wasn't ADOS in the study, but like, go look it up. Right? There was a great article in the Atlantic about our land theft, the land that was stolen from us. Who's giving it back? Where is it? We're not gonna have that conversation, huh? We just not gonna touch on that. Okay. All right. I'm going to my next caller. I am going to 832. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette.
Hey.
Calling from Houston, Texas.
What's going on?
How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Fine. So, just a couple of things I wanted to say about the Black Greek Letter Organization. One of the things, and I'm a member of one of the things I find is that there are specific people, I can't speak for any other group, but I can say in my group, that, that have a better understanding of what's going on, right? Okay. So all we can do is seek to educate others, in our group. Yeah. And also, like, it's the same way with people at church, right? Mm-hmm. I find myself all the time having these conversations. And what ends up happening, or I should say how I approach it is, I just ask the question, about the black-white wealth gap. That's a good place to start. And then people, you sort of get them to talking, and you get people to understand that. Try to take like a real Socratic approach, right? Mm-hmm. Just ask the question. Just ask the question. And what ends up happening usually is people can't answer. They can't answer. Like, so, you've seen the thing that says that by 2030, black people will have no wealth. Mm-hmm. I've seen that, and you kind of just get more into the conversation. You just start asking the questions, and you leave people uncomfortable, right? So what they'll do is they'll bring it back up to you. You know what I mean? I find. So I think it's just important that even if you're in any of these groups, if you're a person that's been paying attention, and if you go to ADOS 101 and do all that, it's just important to just keep pushing the message, right? Mm-hmm. Just keep pushing, just keep asking the questions. Not only with those groups, but like I said, within your family, church groups, all of that. Mm-hmm. I think it's just part of it. And one of the things I had to realize was that it took me a while to really see how, you know what I mean, how to really approach this, right? Mm-hmm. Because you find yourself, at first, early on in the game, you're kind of flailing around and kind of figuring out, getting your bearings. But then as you read more and learn more, you become more confident in your discussion. It's just a matter of because it takes people a while. You know what I mean? It takes people a while to accept that this is really what's happening. And if you don't get on board, that's it. Yeah. Like you said, there is no alternative. That's it. Yeah. That's it.
There is no off-ramp. You're right.
No, there's not. That's it. And the one thing I have been really surprised about is that my children, both of them, they get it. I mean, they
Bravo.
get it.
Bravo.
And they pull no punches, even with their own peers. So that's good. So that's progress. And so we have to keep trying to push for progress. And the thing about listening to the Roland Martin thing, it's really interesting. He keeps talking about, well, you're not going to get the votes. You're not, what do you think? You know, and number one, why what is that all about? You know, that whole talking down to people. What's that about?
Well, you know what, Carl? I think it's quiet as it's kept. I think he thinks we're stupid. Like, I mean, I think he thinks Black America is too stupid to catch a cold. I mean, and so, like, you'll never get it. And so I'm going to just tell you what it is. Like, when you tell me that it needs 218 in the House and it needs 60 in the Senate, I know that. That's basic, like, how a bill becomes a law stuff. So if you're telling me that and you're saying it in such a condescending manner, you not only think that I'm stupid, you think all of ADOS in Black America is stupid. And you don't even really want to deal with us because we're that stupid. That's what you think.
I mean, it's just, how do you think movement, how do you think progress is ever made? I mean, you understand where you start from, but you know that you have to keep pushing. That's how things get, you know, that's how things progress.
And not only that, Carla, you're right, you got to keep pushing. But the thing that happens once you keep pushing is not just that you keep pushing and it takes a long time. Pushing becomes easier and you become more effective at pushing the longer you push. Like, exactly. And you say, oh, this thing works. Oh, I got this boulder. I got this. I'm good with this. You become better at it. You don't do anything by just talking about pushing. Well, if I was near the rock, this how I push. I wouldn't push like Yvette pushing. I wouldn't push like Tone. I push like this. I use my knee and I pivot a little bit and I do. No, just get out here and push. And then when you push, you'll see what you'll do. Don't talk about pushing. Just push. And you become better at pushing. I don't think we understand, like, practice. It's not even that practice makes perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So get out here and practice perfect. Well, you're just gonna talk about perfect practice, and then it don't work that way. But I'm gonna let you have the last word, Carl. I'm sorry.
Oh, so something funny happened today. So I get a text from somebody from the Elizabeth Warren campaign.
Okay.
And they said, "Hey, you know, Ann, is this you?" You know what I mean? So I didn't answer back. You know, this is so-and-so from the Elizabeth Warren campaign. Hey, Ann, is this you? So I didn't answer back, for a while. I waited for a while. And then I answered back. I said, oh, well, could you please explain candidate Warren's specific Black agenda? And also, what is her plan to deal with the Black-white wealth gap that is so devastating to the Black community? I'm still waiting on my response, by the way.
Yeah. And they was calling you by your name, Annabelle. Like, I'm not saying your name's Annabelle, but Annabelle, is that you? Is you there? Is you on the line?
Call me by my name. I'm still, like I said, I'm waiting for my response. We'll see what happens, but
you better wait. Don't hold your breath. You're gonna fall out.
I'm giving her a chance I'm giving them a chance to engage with a real voter. So
yeah, you did. You gave them the chance, and they a swing and a miss. You gave them the shot. Swing and a miss.
Take care.
You too. You have a good one, fam, and enjoy the rest of your night. A swing and a miss, child. Annie, is that you, Annabelle? Is that you? You all right? We want to talk about you about some politics, but we don't want to give you nothing, Annie. I'm going to go to my last caller. I think it's probably going to be my last call. I'm going to 201. 201, what's your name? Where you calling from? What is on your mind?
Hey, how you doing? My name is Jay from Philly. I'm calling because I just want to clarify first. I'm not bullying on. I'm a very poor Black man, ADOS man.
Okay.
I can't even afford the O and the R. I'm poor. but what I want to ask, because I'm also a supporter. Maybe not a supporter, but I'm a viewer of Roland Martin.
Okay.
And I do agree with you. I don't agree with his politics.
Okay.
I think his politics, his strategy is antiquated. I think that was the way that his generation. So, like you said, he's into careerism. And I think that's the way his generation was able to find success.
But hold on, Carl. Let me stop you right there. Roland Martin isn't that much older than me. We're not a generation apart. You know what I mean? So when you say his generation, like we're like 5 years apart. Like he's like 5 years older than me. We're not that much apart. So it's not we don't have like this huge generational gap. Like Roland Martin is just like, I think he's anchored in like a generation that's older than him. And he's planted his flag in like the boomer flag. But it's not his flag.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, or like he's maybe he may be early, but I don't know. But he's just like, it's not that much. Like people say that, like, no, that's because of who he is. That's because how he's anchored his identity. That you think he's that much older. Like his identity is like 70. But that's not. His identity is at least 60. But that's not his age. I think Roland Martin maybe just hit 50 or something like that, like 49, 50, something like that. Like I'm 44.
Right.
Like So we're not like that far apart. It's just like he's anchored in he's anchored so far ahead. Like we're like 6 years apart. I mean, I know that's a difference, but that's not a generational, like you should be like, you're not my daddy or my granddaddy. Why do you act like him? Or something like that. Why do you act like men of a different generation? You've anchored yourself in that. Yeah, somebody said 50s Gen X. Yeah, I don't know what, So it's not even a generational thing like that.
And I understand what you're saying, but I think it's also important to understand the phenomena of the time he grew up in. It was post segregation, and they were being pretty much his generation was the time when they had to somewhat conform to whiteness and sort of find ways out of being black to be successful, or to be viewed as a regular black person. And I'm not making excuses for him, but what I'm saying is, is there room for political dissent, and so we can still support each other and use the resources that each other is offering up?
No.
Instead of just, casting him away to the side, calling him a coon and casting him to the side.
I haven't called him any names. I can only talk about what I'm talking about.
You haven't.
But
you don't do that. I agree.
But no, there's no space to be this wrong. Like it's not as if we just disagree. And understand something. When Roland Martin first started his show and he came to YouTube, I extended an olive branch. I said, this is a space for advocacy. You have to understand that when you get here, maybe we can do something together. And he reacted with arrogant. He unleashed a level of arrogance I have never seen. But I don't really mind that. That's not. I don't really necessarily have an issue with that. The issue that I have is that you're not full-throated. You want to talk about what events you show up to as a black media person and how many microphones you have and how many flights you take at midnight. What I'm saying to you is that is not a replacement for a full-throated advocacy for a very specific group, a transformational advocacy. We are beyond the point that where we can believe like we can have these little moderate edges kind of changes and still be okay. We know that those things like around the edges, a judge here, a little bit more money for HUD here, that's not going to make us whole. So I need you to advocate for that. And not only do I need you to advocate for that, I don't need you to... Do you know how many times Roland Martin has gone on to YouTube, and now forget about me, and just call ADOS people stupid, and these people are morons, they don't understand nothing.
I fight with him all the time on his website. I agree.
It's condescending. Like, you're condescending. You are a snobby man. And like, there's no space for that. We have to be a collective. There's no space for you to be over here thinking you better than everybody. How you better than all of us, but you're going to help us. Let me teach y'all. I'm reading a book this evening. You think you're the only Negro that read? I read all the time, but I don't put my books up. I don't feel like I'm better than somebody because I read. Maybe a woman didn't have time to read because she was putting her baby to bed and she's dealing with eviction and all kind of other stuff that's happening in her life, health issues. Maybe the man didn't have time to read because he's driving Uber, he's frustrated or whatever. Now I'm not saying you shouldn't. We all have to make more efforts to do it, but like you don't get to sit in judgment. Man, like we don't know your parents and where you come from and what your advantages was versus disadvantages. You don't get to walk around and behave as if the rest of Black America is stupid, and then you advocate from a place that doesn't help us in any kind of transformational way. And you've been saying this stuff for a long time about how reparations ain't never gonna happen, right? But you know why? Because you don't need it to happen. You chilling. You at home eating sausages. So you fine. You don't get to do that. Like, what we need right now is too much for you to be all the way over here, all the way off all kinds of code, thinking about yourself and you see when you don't know politics. It takes 218. You don't know how many people is there. Oh my God, I've never seen anything like it. You can't advocate from that space. And you're on YouTube. You're not on CNN. You're not on MSNBC. You've been banished. So since you're here, advocate for something real. Don't just advocate for this BS stuff, right? We just need more judges. We got to get some more Democrats. The Democrats that we have hardly want to go for reparations. So how we say we need more of them? For what? They don't want to do it now. And I don't think you want to do it, Roland.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my long answer.
I understand what you're saying, and you spoke to his being banished and whatnot. But see, that's one of the reasons why I want to support him so badly, because he has stated that he had a dream of providing Black people with their own media, and that's why he did not want to go back to CNN or
I think he wanted to go back. I think he wanted to go back. I think they wouldn't let him go. I don't believe that. You're not gonna convince me of that story. I just didn't want to go back. I don't believe it. I think he wanted to, and I think it didn't work out. I think they won't have him back.
I don't know the facts of that. I just know what he says, and I want to support that, because what we do need is our own Black media.
But let me just say this. Let me just say this, Colin. I agree with you. Hold on. Wait. Hold on, Colin. I'm gonna let you have your word. But let me just say this. We do need our Black media. I agree with you. I'm in whole agreement. But let's just say this for a second. Let's just say that Roland Martin Unfiltered was on CBS. Right? It's on CBS. He got the whole channel is Black media, and it's him. Is that a transformational change for our lives? Like, if he's the one that has the Black media, is that transformational advocacy for ADOS? Like, for me, I play it all the way through in my mind. What if you had media? I would see you, you're going to go against Brett Kavanaugh and say, you're going to do the DACA thing and say, but you're still not going to advocate. If you won't advocate for reparations on YouTube, you're not at a station. I'm not talking about you. You're not at the Washington Post. If you won't advocate for reparations full-throatedly on YouTube, what do I think you would do if you had an actual network? I don't think you would do anything. I think you'd be worse.
I see your point. I just hope that I just want to try to persuade those and have peaceful political dissent, as Martin Luther King talked about, and try to persuade those that disagree with me. I was persuaded with your argument. I have only been going this since like November, December, and I was persuaded. It took me months, but I was persuaded. And I think that power of persuasion is powerful. The power of persuasion is powerful, and I think that if we stay at it, we can actually turn media outlets like his. I think
the power of persuasion. I think the persuasion is powerful if you're not arrogant. If you're not an arrogant person, you sit back and you can say, well, you know what? You got a point right there. You got a point, and that's kind of why I said what I said when Roland came to YouTube. I was like, it's full-throated advocacy. Maybe, you do something and we be in this space. We can make, and he went off. I'm not you. You're not me. See, I don't know if you can change the mind of somebody who thinks that they're the brightest star in every room they walk into. When I walk into a room, I have a sense of sameness with everybody. I'm not better than you, but I'm not worse than you either. So I'm not superior to you, but you're not going to make me feel like the bottom of your shoe. So that's how I walk in. When Roland Martin walks in and thinks he's the brightest star to ever shine. He is and I don't know if you can be reflective enough, if that's your attitude, to actually change your mind. I don't think so. And I would love to be surprised. Like if he came out tomorrow and be like, Yvette got a point, I would be like, oh, snappy-doo. Like, I would love to be surprised, but I just don't think I would be.
Okay. All right. Well, I understand. I thank you very much for giving me the time to ask you these questions, and I just want you to know I support you 100%.
I appreciate it, fam.
150% of everything you do.
I appreciate it, fam. But you, if you want to go in there, you don't give up the fight. Don't give up the ghost if you don't want to, child. You can go in there. I'm just not gonna do it. If you want to go in there, and then, child, I don't. You know, and thank you, fam. I appreciate you calling. I think that's gonna be my last caller for the night. But I don't respond with arrogance. I don't like it. I don't feel like anybody has that right. I don't care if you were. I don't care, and he's not. But I don't care if you were a genius. I don't respond well to that level of arrogance. I've never seen an arrogant person like uplift people or even be wonderful for. I've never seen it, and I don't think there's any reason for it. We're all human. We all err. We all make mistakes. How are you arrogant as like a person who walks on this earth in flesh and bone? How are you that arrogant, and how are you that condescending? I have a problem with that, and maybe that's part of my issue or something. I don't know, but I have a severe problem with that. And Roland Martin has never said anybody else was right. He just comes on to tell you how stupid you is. Like, he just comes on to tell you crazy. Yeah, I can't deal with somebody just come on and tell me, well, you know what? I just came on to tell you sure is stupid. And let me tell you about these dumb ADOS people. And are you okay? Like, I know I can't. I cannot, and I will not. Anyway, fam, before I forget, before we go, do not forget tomorrow, where do we go from here? Chaos or Community, we will be having the discussion. So please show up. If you read the book, you can call in and have a discussion. If you didn't read the book, you can still show up. You know, don't call in if you didn't read it. Don't call in talking to me about, chicken feed somewhere. I'm not, they did. No. This is not the show. We're going to stay focused tomorrow on the point at hand and the book at hand and the passages and page numbers and be on it. So please show up for that tomorrow, fam. Please, before you go, make sure you hit that like button for me. Cost you no money to hit the like button. Hit the bell if you have not. Subscribe if you have not subscribed to the channel. You can always go to donatebrown.com, patreon.com/Carnell, and all that good stuff. Please go to subscribetobrown.com too. That costs you nothing to add your email to my list. I would appreciate it. And fam, until tomorrow, please finish your libation, get yourselves some rest, get into bed, get to work, get the babies to bed. If they running around and acting up with their socks half off. Kids always lose socks. What is that about? Anyway, fam, I will see you tomorrow. Enjoy.